not in my 5 or 6 years. I've taught year 6, and I've taught poetry every year. Their poems, they've written poems about intergenerational learning. They've written poems about the residents themselves. They've written narrative poems, so they've reflected on their life and write poems about their life. And they've written lyrical poems about, growing old. So it just, and it wasn't overwhelming. It was just, it all integrated. And it was some of the best writing I've ever seen. The poems that my students were writing in the year were far better than my students 2 or 3 years ago, because there's purpose in their writing. These students have taken something away from it because it did integrate with what they were learning about. It was relevant. It has to be purposeful. So you've got to come up with creative ways that you can integrate it. And I didn't think I would be able to, but it then formed the centre part of my literacy program. Yes, that was really hard, because I didn't want them to, it wasn't about them messing it up. I think it was more about them not gaining what I wanted them to get from the conversation. And I learnt towards the end, it wasn't what I wanted, it was what was just brought out. So that was really it. And sometimes I would have to physically step back myself. And then towards the end, I saw the growth. So they no longer needed me to prompt. They would be asking the questions. And that's when I knew that their communication skills, definitely had improved. So I think that whole idea of, I think initially they need questions, they need prompting, they need that. But then I think there comes a point where I had to step back, and sometimes the conversations went to places that I didn't even expect them to go, but they were the most meaningful conversations. They were the most surprising. So, and it wasn't about a scripted conversation. It has to be free and natural flowing. But unless they get that opportunity to have scripted conversation first, so it's that idea of gradual release. You create, you work with them together, and then slowly you let them go. And by the end, they were having conversations, and when they met them face to face, they had the conversations. They were able to talk to them because, there wasn't a script there in front of them. So I think as they developed more confidence in themselves and got to know the residents a little more, their questioning skills did improve. Definitely, yes. It was something that, I couldn't experience in any other KLA and on any other day at any other time. So stepping back, I was still engaged. So it was, it just made my heart happy just to see the residents, to see the students communicate, the joy it brought them. So there were some really, happy stories, and there were also some really sad stories. But it was just, it just makes you feel something like, I don't even know how to describe it in words, but it's made me a better person. It's made me a better teacher. It's made me a better communicator. And it's made me understand that old people are not old people. Old people are people, and they've lived, and they've got life experience, and we can learn so much from them. They shouldn't be, their voices need to be heard. Unless a student hears something from someone firsthand, they can watch it on Google and watch it on a movie, but having that communication and listening to them and hearing it in the voice, hearing the sadness in the voice or the excitement in the voice, even the laughter, it's just so heartwarming. And it was, my favourite time of the week. So it wasn't 45 minutes where I sat there and did nothing. I was actually still engaged, watching and listening, and being part of the conversation and writing new words down and seeing my students engaged. Definitely calming. I felt the students were empowered. So I felt a sense of, first it was shock, and then it was, to see them, the way they carried on with their conversations, but that sense of, calming, appreciativeness. I just felt so thankful for being part of the program. It was my happiest time of the week. The students were at their very best on that day, and it wasn't something that they became bored of or sick of or something that they wanted to give away to anybody else. It was it was like it was our family, not their family, it was our family. So we were all part of the one family. As I said, it was the most enjoyable day of the week for me, the most uplifting day of the week, and it just set the tone for the remainder of the day. So having it, whether it be on Thursday, preferably maybe Mondays, I'm not too sure, but students do need a day to prepare, but it just set the tone for the day for me particularly, and anything else that might have been stressing me, that was just left out the door as soon as that camera went on and I saw their faces. For myself, nothing else mattered.